welcome to another episode of Monday Night Therapy. I almost lost my words.
I was wondering where you were headed with that.
I was excited, Todd. Positive things happened this weekend. Positive things. Do you want to hear about the positive things that happened?
I want you to just start listing all those positive things. Just let it fly, buddy.
The Nebraska volleyball team won the Big Ten outright, and they won the Big Ten outright, and they won the Big Ten outright, which means they don't have to share it with anybody.
I don't like to share. I don't like to share.
I've known that about you for decades. Todd's a non-sharing son of a bitch. Okay, the soccer team beat UC Irving 4-0. They are qualified for the Elite Eight. They are climbing up the communist soccer ranks.
There you go.
I think that's pretty awesome. And apparently they had really good attendance at their games at Hibner Stadium. I don't remember. They're going to Stanford to play next, aren't they?
Yep, they play Stanford next time. Yep.
Well, you know what? That'll be tough because Stanford's got a whole lot of commie right there. Yeah. Okay. Men's basketball is 5-0 for the first time since 2008. I think that's right. I didn't look it up. I pulled it out of my memory. My vast resources.
Your vast resources? Yeah.
Vast resources of broken memories up there. Women's basketball is 3-1.
Had a tough loss to Creighton.
Wrestling. Oh, they lost to Creighton. Women's basketball lost to Creighton. Well, that's kind of negative. Wrestling is undefeated. They won the Navy tournament this weekend. I don't know what that means. What's that mean, Todd?
Well,
did they take on like Rangers? Did they take on Navy SEALs and kick their ass?
No, they played the U.S. Naval Academy hosted a tournament, and it wasn't that tough of a tournament, but it gave Nebraska a chance to get some guys out there and get them more mat time. Getting ready for the big Cliff Keen tournament out in Vegas, which will be a bigger challenge for them. So, yeah.
And unfortunately, all of those positive things, except for maybe volleyball, I don't know. All of those positive things are being outweighed by one lousy moment in Wisconsin.
Yeah, a very disappointing evening in Wisconsin.
What would you say was what name the one thing about the Wisconsin game that just you hate the most?
What did I hate the most about that Wisconsin game?
Yeah.
What I hated the most was that when Nebraska was driving at the end of the game, they did not use timeouts to position themselves to try to win that game at the end. That's what bothered me the most about that game.
Did you listen to the Haas and Greg show, the CornNation Overreaction?
I did not. I did not.
Haas made the argument that they extended the game by getting the field goal and playing for overtime. Haas knows a lot more about offense than I do. I don't like it. I put it this way. I think there's a lot of people comparing Maryland and Wisconsin. And I would have gone for the touchdown both times. I would have just said, fuck it, we're scoring, because that's what we do. Dr. Tom didn't go for a tie. I mean, he lost. He lost. He wasn't burned alive for it.
There
were a lot of people that were like, he could have just won a title, but we were all like, yeah, you know why? Because we're a generation of ass kickers, not this wiener dog generation now. It's full of I don't even know where I'm going with that.
John, I've never adjusted to the idea, and not just to tie games, but even when teams play for a field goal to win a game, I've never quite understood that. And okay, there is that philosophy that when you throw the ball, three things can happen and two of them are bad. I kind of get that. But, what am I trying to say? Well, what's somewhat hypocritical is the same people that were bitching last week about, why didn't they kick? And when Purdy threw the interception, they're the same ones this year about, well, why did they kick? And so you can't make people happy, but I just think you try to win the ball game in in regular time. And Nebraska, I don't know, with a first-time starter, with the trouble that the team has had with offense, playing to go into overtime, I just didn't feel good about that. That bothered me.
Did it? Yeah,
Yeah.
it bothered me too. I think that I mean, he had 3 fucking timeouts. Three, not 2, not 1.
Yeah.
You don't get 4. He had 3, all of his timeouts, and I just thought, we could do some more here. I don't know. That I keep bringing this up. I keep bringing it up. I'm going to keep bringing it up. We're angry at this because we know the outcome, and the outcome is negative. The guys that have to make these calls and these decisions have to do this shit in real time without they're trying to do their best guess possible.
That's very true. It's easy to second guess when it's already happened.
Yeah. Like 4th and 2. There were a lot of YouTube commenters that said we should have snuck the ball in this 4th and 2 play. And I honestly, if you guys in the comment section or people on podcasts are thinking that this offensive line and this quarterback can make a quarterback sneak 2 yards, how do you believe that? We don't have Dave Remington as a center. I think our offensive line is playing much better, but this offensive line is not blowing people off the ball. So this idea that we're just going to sneak the ball in 4th, maybe 4th and inches. So I don't know. Okay. All right. Should I take some comments? Because there's some comments.
Here's one I'll throw up right there.
Linda Wilkins says it was a no win for Rhule. He would have been crucified either way. We tend to do that. We do. We do. Are you going to keep putting them up since you took that one?
Well,
let's go with Linda again. Okay. Linda Wilkins says, John, I have never experienced it, but I guess this game was like getting kicked in the nuts. What do you think, Todd?
Oh, I'm not sure if this was a nut kicker or not. There have been other games that are nut kickers. This was like a punch to the gut. How about that?
There you go. That is true. Being kicked in the nuts.
I'll say a punch to the gut, not a kick in the nuts. It wasn't.
Linda, just so you know, there are different levels. There's just sometimes it just hurts, and then there's sometimes it hurts so bad that your entire inside of your body and your stomach goes into a cramp that is incredibly painful. And this, you know what? I think this was like if we were put it this way. We are now 1-29 in 1-score games. And I think that we've been kicked in the nuts so much that we just don't even know anymore. We're just like, what? Did somebody kick me in the nuts? I didn't notice. Okay, moving on.
Throw this one up. Jeez,
Eli, go ahead.
Eli Aguilar says Tanner Mordecai was a slippery son of a gun.
He was.
He was.
He was. I will say this. I saw some people refer to lousy tackling. Quarterbacks like that are hard to tackle. I've also seen people refer to, Tony White hasn't figured out how to contain a mobile quarterback yet, so he's not that good a defensive coordinator. Everybody has problems with mobile quarterbacks. Everyone. There's no solution to a mobile quarterback that works. That's part of the offense and defense battling back and forth, trying to outbalance each other for which one has better math than the other, have better matchups. So, that's why a quarterback like Tanner Mordecai or a Josh Allen or a Talia or a Tua or, keep Patrick Mahomes. This is why they're so valuable to everybody, is because mobile quarterbacks become a run pass option all to themselves. Stephanie Jackson says GBR. So Stephanie came back this week. Charles Hullett says special teams is what I hated most in that game. Man.
Yeah, I can't disagree with that, Charles. Boy, what's happened to our punter? What has happened to him as the season's gone on? And very, very, very frustrating. And we really didn't have any opportunities to return any punts. Yeah, I can't disagree at all with that, Charles.
Yeah, even when he had the opportunity to boom one down to the 10, they ended up at the 25, and that was, I don't know, that was frustrating. We'll just go with Charles Hullett again. Todd, you've been vaping or what? It looks all cloudy back there.
I'm not a vapor. I just use that cloudy filter because who knows where I'm going to be.
Brian Bauer says, happy to be the first to mention fuck Iowa. Thank you, Brian, for keeping
Thank
us
you,
on
Brian.
track. Yeah,
There
for
you
the
go.
week. Lloyd M. Christmas. Ugh. Lloyd M. Christmas says, John, I wonder if Brian Ferentz is going to put his dad in a nursing home if he doesn't quit after the season. You know, from all indications, Kirk is going to continue to coach on. But I will be talking to Scott Docterman, who covers Iowa for The Athletic tomorrow night at 7:30 p.m. He's only got it a half hour because he's a busy, well-known, he's up here. I'm this little crud bum guy. So he's going to give me a half hour at 7:30 tomorrow night so we can abuse him about Iowa. Kind of. I see anonymous. There's an anonymous. Is this the anonymous that hacks into things and spills things all over the internet?
Couldn't tell you.
Yeah. Anonymous says the least Googled phrase ever is, quote, most exciting plays in Iowa football history.
Well,
quote.
Somebody does have an answer. No offense, only defense says Iowa highlights are 60-plus yards punts that roll. So there you go. That's excitement for Iowa fans. The fact that their punter is absolutely incredible. Yeah, I'll tell you what, not fun to watch. Not fun to watch at all.
Oh my God, I have to go all the way. You're supposed to be watching these comments up there.
I'm supposed to be?
Yeah, we need to figure out how we're going to add a producer or some damn thing. Well, you know what, Todd, we're coming at the end of. Okay, we'll talk about that later.
Linda Wilkins says, Todd, what are you drinking tonight? I'm drinking Shiner Holiday Cheer tonight, Linda. It is my favorite seasonal beer. I love it.
I completely hung up there. What are you drinking?
Shiner Holiday Cheer.
Holiday Cheer.
Holiday Cheer.
Holiday Cheer.
It is my favorite beer of all beers.
Ted Hilker says, I thought if we had no turnovers, we'd have figured it out, but not. That's probably the biggest thing about the game in Wisconsin is I think all of us would agree that if Nebraska, we all have said, if Nebraska doesn't turn the ball over, we're going to win. And then we had one turnover as the last play in the game, but
right.
Hey, we had a game without turnovers. That's a step in the positive direction, isn't it?
I honestly thought that we'd win a game if we didn't turn the ball over, but to kind of balance that, we did have a few more penalties than what we've had, and we had some untimely penalties.
Brangus McGee says, did we crawl into our shell in the second quarter, or did whiskey adjust? What do you think of that?
I think it might have been a combination of both. I'm not good enough with the X's and O's, to sit there and look and diagnose whether or not adjustments were made. I thought our running game looked really good, and there was a nice balance with passing, in the first quarter. In the second quarter, I thought that we probably tried to throw the ball a little bit more than what we did in the first, and it just didn't seem like we worked hard enough to move the ball on the ground in the second quarter. So whether that was a decision that was made with the play calls or whether that was something that Wisconsin adjusted to, I'm not quite sure. But I also know that I think they were trying to keep Chubba Purdy vertical. And, they were a little fearful about him running the ball. And, so it is what it is.
I would say that fourth down play that we didn't we didn't convert was a huge, that was a play that converted the game. Decided to not lay down and roll over. If Nebraska would, I mentioned this in my post-game reaction, if Nebraska would have converted that 4th and 2, there's a good chance that this game would have snowballed into something that turned into 42-10. I think Matt Rhule has said he doesn't believe in momentum, and I really tried to take the side of that thing. I really tried to go, do I believe in momentum? Well, fucking there it is. That's really what happened. I mean, you could see if you go back to the Illinois game, they went all the way down the field on the first series of the game. We held them at the goal line, and that game completely turned to the point that Illinois had no chance to win that game. Wisconsin in this game, I don't think it was about plays adjusting. I think it was just sheerly, a team gained momentum and they stopped rolling over. I don't think it's always about the chess match or the plays you call or how you execute. A lot of it is suddenly a team says, well, fuck, we're going to play football. Those guys did their job. We're going to do ours. And they had Tanner Mordecai back, and God help us, Braylon Allen. I like Braylon Allen, but holy shit, was he a Heisman winner that night or what? The guy had like 2.3 or 2.5 yards per carry, and you'd swear to God he had run for 289 yards on us.
Well, I don't understand.
62 yards.
I don't understand why they even played Braylon Allen as good as number 34 was carrying the ball. He was good for 4 or 5 yards a pop. I don't know that they needed to even go to Braylon Allen unless the purpose was to have him in there to pass block.
Or trip people. Was it he the guy that tripped people? Wasn't he?
I don't know if it was him or 34.
Oh my God. That whole thing, I'll get to the officials for just a bit. I can't remember which one of our guys got called for holding. He got called for a takedown.
That was 51.
I looked at that and I went, that you decide to call that right fucking there. You called that holding call out of all the shit that's going on in that line between the offense and the defense on both teams. You decide that that's the one you're going to, what the fuck? Was there a buzzer that went off in your pants? Time to call a holding call. They were taking our defensive linemen down the entire freaking game, and there wasn't one holding call. I know that the Big Ten has don't ever call holding, but they decided to call holding on that one play, and I just want to know what brain cell fired in that guy's fucking head to go, holding, when it didn't fire the rest of the time all night. Okay, I feel better.
Good.
Am I too loud?
No, you're doing just fine.
She's reminding me to breathe, but she's right. I almost passed out. That's my cleansing breath, Todd. You're supposed to take over talking when I do that.
I'm just trying to hang in there with you tonight, buddy.
Linda Wilkins says that last play does not count as a turn. It does, in the little stats thing. Cilantro says, is Iowa the worst 9-2 team in the country, or are they legit? Well, Todd, you take this one. I'll breathe.
I don't know how many 9-2 teams there are in the country, but I would venture to say that there are better 9-2 teams. There are people that are really praising Iowa at being 9-2 for what little offense they've been able to generate and still win games, still win 9 games. People are saying that they aren't getting the accolades that they deserve. They're not getting the props. Everybody is running them down because of their crappy offense. But the reality is that they've got, 9 wins. And, are they the worst 9-2 team in the country? I don't know. We'll see. Hopefully they're 9-3 after Friday, because I think Nebraska has a chance to beat them. But I'm real curious how things are going to shake down in the Big 12 championship game, regardless of who they play. Because I'm not sure that either Michigan or Ohio State will blow them out. I could see Iowa in a tussle with them where it's maybe a 1-score, 2-score game
against Michigan or Ohio State.
Yeah,
that would be funny. I would even almost root for Iowa.
I can't do that. You can't.
Okay, some more stuff. Nebraska strong. Go Big Red says, John and Todd, what should be the official beer of Nebraska football? Probably some strong IPA that's full of bitterness.
Isn't there Cornhead Lager or something like that claims to be? I like good old Nebraska Brew. Zipline Brewing's good old Nebraska Brew. I think that's a good one.
I don't drink anymore, so I got no dog in this fight.
Yeah.
Okay, we did that one. Okay, Husker JPEG says, the D had a lot to do with losing these games. This D is overrated. People fall in love with it because the D has been so bad for 10 years. I'm going to completely disagree with that because there is only really one defensive category that counts, and that's scoring defense. And that's how low you keep your opponent from scoring. And this scoring defense is 15th in the nation. You could say, well, they haven't played any good offenses. Well, they play what's in front of them. And they played Michigan, but I don't think it's overrated at all. When you look at the fact that this is a first-year coach and he's playing largely guys he didn't recruit, and he's got young guys like Cameron Leonard, who had come along as true freshmen and really played really good football, I don't think it's overrated at all. I don't think they lost games for us. We're losing games because we don't score enough points on offense. And we've given up very few explosive plays compared to other teams around the nation. The other thing I'd say about the defense is this. All of the rules and all of the game, the football game itself, have been skewed toward offense over the last, 2 decades maybe, where it's harder to play defense as a cornerback or a defensive back. It's certainly impossible in the NFL. You can't hit a quarterback without calling roughing. It's just it's very difficult to play any defense. So if you're going to compare this back to, 1970, 1980, it's a completely different game than it was then. I need to breathe again, Todd. Go ahead. Do you have anything on that?
No, I agree with what you're saying. And I think the defense is vastly improved. And the defense has given Nebraska an opportunity to win games. If we'd have had the defense that we had the last few years, we would be absolutely miserable right now. There's no way we would have won 5 games without this defense.
And they'd be terrible. Let's see. Nebraska strong. Go Big Red says, John, I love you. Well, thank you. But I completely disagree. 8 men in the box with a quarterback spy is the answer against the mobile QB. Is he saying 8 men in the box and then 9 with the quarterback spy, or is the quarterback spy among the 8?
I don't know. But if we'd have played 8 men in the box with a spy against them, number 6 would still be running. He'd still be catching passes and running down, State Street or whatever it is in Madison. He'd be out running down State Street chasing those damn Nazis that were marching before the game in Madison.
You're leaving your cornerbacks out on an island with that. And I don't think Malcolm Hartzog played really well last year. This year, he's given up some really good big plays repeatedly. I don't think you're leaving that guy by himself just because you have a mobile quarterback.
Maybe
if Iowa, all they had was a mobile quarterback. I don't know. That's a different
Malcolm Hartzog is a better safety than he is a cornerback. The kid is too short, and they put tall receivers on that guy and just exploit him something fierce.
Linda Wilkins says, do you have a point, John? Well, no, I have a dent in my head, so there's no point there anymore. Otherwise, I just normally try to talk a lot and use bigger words so I sound like I know what I'm saying. Do I ever have a point, Todd?
Oh, you have a point at times.
Okay.
I think so.
Charles Hullett says at least one of the quote trick plays quote would have worked a lot better if the one guy would have done any semblance of blocking. This is, I mean, when people like the horizontal pass to that short guy, Billy Kemp, where Alex Bullock didn't block anything and Billy Kemp got blown up, and then everybody goes, that was a bad play call. It was horizontal. Well, it isn't a bad play call. It's an easy way to gain 5 yards is to get the ball out there quick, and a guy blocks. So, a lot of the play calling stuff that we look at and we go, those are bad play calls. It's because these guys are young and they're not all doing their jobs. And that's kind of part of having a very young team and putting very young players out on the field and having them try to do stuff. They're young receivers. They have to learn how to block. I don't know if you've noticed this. Well, you know what, Todd? I'm going to go ahead and make a 90s comparison or an 80s comparison. How about if I do that?
How about you do that?
Okay. One of the things about the 80s and 90s when it came to receivers is the guys who were younger players like freshmen and sophomores, they were already taught by the older players. There were juniors and seniors that have been playing that they were supposed to get their asses out there and block on run plays or block on, these kinds of plays. Who do we have that's an older player in this offense that can teach younger players how to block, Todd?
We don't.
Yeah.
Bryce really Benhart's been around for quite a while, and he's finally got it figured out. But it's a whole different world with what we have right now compared to the pipeline days.
Phil, you read that one. My God, I'm
gonna. Phil Spear says Iowa hasn't beat a team with more than 6 wins. I suppose that's probably true. Iowa, I tell you what, Iowa seems to get the lightest Big Ten schedule of any school in the West. I mean, they played Penn State this year. They didn't play Ohio State. They didn't play Michigan. I don't want anybody to waste their time going and looking, but has Iowa, since Nebraska joined the Big Ten, has Iowa ever played Michigan and Ohio State in the same year? And
I don't know. They get a ridiculously easy
schedule.
They
get a ridiculous easy schedule all the time.
Okay, we have a lot of comments. Nebraska Strong says, Todd, Iowa will get absolutely destroyed by Ohio State or Michigan. Iowa is a dumpster fire on offense.
Yes, they are.
They are. They're terrible.
They are.
But the defense is pretty good.
You know what? Let's see how it sets up for the Big 12 championship game, and we can talk a little bit about that at that point in time. Iowa's defense took a huge blow when Cooper DeJean was his season was over. That's huge. So a team that can throw the ball, they're going to move the ball. They would be able to move the ball against Iowa, but I don't know. I'm the last person that wants to give props to Iowa, but I'll tell you what, that defense and their special teams, they've taken to 9-2. We'll see. Yeah, how about this one? Ben Zimmerman says the line being -2 NU is crazy. Go Big Red.
I think it was. I think that's a little nuts. I mean, I think largely, and I don't bet. I don't follow betting. The over-under was down to 26.5 the last I saw, which I think is the lowest historical over-under ever. And is it up? They're doing this because the betting is all going to one side, I guess. maybe somebody else. Cilantro says, does anybody thinks Nebraska's offensive line is going to be murdered by Iowa's front seven?
It could be a long day for the O-line.
Well, they don't have that Shannon kid that they lost.
Well, that's true. Nebraska's offensive line did pretty good against them last year.
Yeah.
And is this a better front seven for Iowa than what they had last year? I'm not sure.
I guess we're going to find out in a few days, but
Yeah,
I don't think they're going to be murdered. I think the offensive line is definitely playing better. Everybody that's played Iowa has had problems scoring points. So I think this is another game in which it's going to come down to, are we going to turn the ball over there and give them easy stuff? And that's the thing. Well, we already did this. Oscar JPEG says the Tony W being a head coach train should have ended with Wisconsin. The D was smashed by a crippled quarterback and running back. The D failed to save the games. The D is only better than average, not great. I think we covered that.
I got a question for you, John.
Yeah.
What did you think of Chubba Purdy's performance overall?
I thought it was pretty exceptional. For us having spent this entire frickin' season watching quarterbacks turn the ball over and not have an offense at all and struggle in some cases to run basic plays, he looked like he was going to be an NFL Hall of Famer. My God. I don't know if he did that many things wrong. The last pass, if he'd have gotten the last pass over the top of the defense, we'd have had a touchdown because the guy behind him was wide open. For us, not them.
The thing about Chubba Purdy that makes me nervous about him is that he's got nervous feet. And
yeah, that's true.
Sometimes that he turns that into, a positive because he'll scamper and pick up some yards. But boy, there's times when he's back there that, he doesn't give a play enough time to develop downfield. And he's really quick to take off. But, that's a minor criticism compared to, certainly what we can say about, Heinrich and Jeff Sims. So I thought Chubba played a pretty good game overall. I really did.
Oh.
And I have to apologize. Apparently I referenced the Big 12 championship game.
Yeah.
No, Big 10. My apologies there. I know.
Anonymous says, will Emmett Johnson ever have a 100-yard day, or will we continually give up on the tailback? You take this one.
That's a good question. I don't understand why we alternate running backs as much as we do. Give Emmett Johnson the ball 20, give him 20 carries. Give him 20 carries, 25 carries. Run that kid. Then again, when Grant was in the game, Grant was pretty productive running the ball. So, I don't know. With the running back situation, I guess those days are over about, that work. Well, they're not. Hell, because Braylon Allen carried the ball a whole bunch and he was banged up. So, yes, Emmett Johnson will have a 100-yard day. It won't happen until next year, though.
Yeah, the only thing I can think of is they're playing this many. Early on in the season, we noticed that Nebraska was playing like 25 guys on defense or 22 guys on defense, and they were playing that many to get them experience in the defense so they'd know what they were doing. And that's the only thing I can think they're doing on the offense is switching. They lost guys. So would Emmett Johnson be getting these carries if Gabe Irvin and Ramir Johnson were still around? Probably not, but maybe they're just switching them in and out just to get them some experience with the offense. And, get them onto the field for next season. So we can win the Big Ten next year.
There you go. Nebraska Strong he's going to prove a point to me here. Iowa got destroyed 31-0 against Penn State. Who crushed Penn State? Oh, that's right. Ohio State and Michigan smashed Penn State. Okay, I surrender. It'll be 87-0, regardless of whoever they play. That's where I'm going to put my money. Bet the over.
Well, Todd, if they play Ohio State, nobody on Iowa's defense is going to cover Marvin Harrison Jr.
The guy that could is hurt.
Cooper DeJean is going to be gone, and they're going to be like just throwing the ball 8 times, and they'll score 8 times, and there you go. Linda Wilkins a while ago said, "I assuming you boys drank your share of Milwaukee Light when you were in college."
No, we didn't. We were Linda. We were in college through the generic label era, and we drank beer, white cans, black lettering beer, and you could get that at Super Saver really, 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 really cheap. I remember we had a little garage behind the place we lived in on Charleston, and it was towards the end of the spring, and we thought, well, it's time to redeem our aluminum, and so we spent an afternoon drinking a ton of beer and smashing beer cans. And I would venture to say, this garage was just full. And I would venture to say about 90% of the cans were those white cans with beer on them. And I don't know how much we made, but it was enough to stop by Super Saver again and load up, because we were buying that stuff cases at a time. So,
ooh, they're talking about prediction. Lloyd M. Christmas says hams. We had hams. We just bought whatever was cheapest. We were, you didn't have a lot of money in college.
I told Joel Tilson to stop in and remind me about a ham story. I'll tell a ham story before we leave.
Charles Hollett says, I figured you guys got Keystone Light bitter beer face. This Keystone Light wasn't around then, was it?
If it was, I don't know. I don't know if it was or not.
Do you remember that? I remember one. Rainier beer.
Yes.
And Rainier was a really cheap, shitty beer from like Washington or something. But they had this beer commercial.
I ran into
beer
that
commercial that was the sound of a motorcycle going.
It was awesome. It was shifting gears. Rainier beer.
Todd does it better than I do.
Oh, my freshman year in college, I went to the University of Montana, and that was the beer that everybody was drinking. I had never, ever, ever heard of Rainier beer. But yeah, oh my goodness,
Mike Corrigan, we turned into the beer show. Mike Corrigan says Carling Black Label. That was a shitty beer.
Yeah.
And then there was Blatz. who that beer had the effect on you what its name was. It just, everybody woke up the next morning and people were dead from the gas attack. Okay, we should move on.
Somebody in the crew that drank
Charles Hellett, Schaefer's Light. That was another really cheap, shitty beer. There you go. Olympia, Joel Tilson, Rainier, and Olympia beers.
Yeah.
Oh, and then okay, red, white, and blue beer. My God, we're just getting through an old style David Matney.
Yeah.
Then there's Falstaff Slits.
Falstaff. Yeah, used to be brewed.
I will tell you the shittiest beer ever made. Okay, and we didn't drink it. I see people drinking it now, but it's Pabst Blue Ribbon. It is it's the most god awful beer ever made, because when you open a can of that stuff and you take a drink, what you're tasting is all them fucking union guys in the 70s that got destroyed by the Japanese automakers, and the bitterness and regret of the 70s of those guys losing their jobs. That's really what Pabst Blue Ribbon is made of. It's just bitterness and regret of old frickin' guys in the 70s. Fred Sacco says hams. That's what Iowa's cheerleaders are called.
I'll tell you my ham story, and you know, it's not a real funny one, but I was out with my dad a few weeks ago, and we went to eat at a sports bar down on Highway 2, and we went in there, and I was kind of looking at the beer menu, and the gal happened to say, "Well, we have some kind of a special on tall boys." And I said, "Well, what kind do you have?" And you know, it was kind of the old school. Well, we got Paps, we got Coors, and whatever. And I said, "You got hams?" Well, of course we have hams, and hams is always $2.50 for a tall boy, regardless of what night it is. And I said, "Well, I'll have a hams." And my dad says, "Well, I'm going to have a hams too." And I said, "Well, bring me 2 so I can stay ahead here." And so I had, anyway, my dad got to telling stories about his sister-in-law inherited a little tavern in Adair, Iowa, when my dad was probably about 15 years old. And my Aunt Maggie ran this tavern when it was not a common thing for women to own bars back then. And Maggie, she was a tough one. And anyway, her bar beer was hams. And so everything, you know, the hams signs and all that kind of stuff. And my dad said, "Yeah, you know, Maggie was really, really good to us, because all I'd have to say to Maggie was, 'Well, me and the boys, we're going to go out tonight.' And Maggie would always, in a brown paper sack, leave 2 6-packs of hams outside the back door at her tavern, so my dad could pick up some hams beer, and he and his high school buddies had something to consume on the way to whatever dance they were going to." So, from the land of sky blue waters.
Todd,
Yes.
would you like to tell this story? Or would you like me to tell it? Or should we just let it go for now?
No, it's a story that needs to be told.
Well, Lloyd M. Christmas says, "What is Mad Dog 2020? What is Mad Dog 2020, Todd? Since we turned into the alcohol show."
It is Mad Dog 2020 is a high alcohol content wine that tastes very similar to grape juice or grape cough medicine. MD 2020, 1980. When was Springsteen born in the USA tour?
I think
was that
it was
84?
1983.
83. Bruce Springsteen concert, Lincoln, Nebraska. Students lined up, snaking all the way around campus. There was tents. There was a Springsteen community for 3 or 4 days on Central Campus. Just incredible. And we had 4 spots. When I say we, it was kind of our college group. We had 4 spots. And so we took turns holding spots in line. And we were down there the night before the tickets. No, excuse me, 2 nights. It was 2 nights before the tickets.
I went down on Wednesday night.
Okay.
And I slept in the rain in a sleeping bag on the sidewalk.
Well, we got a little smarter as the week went on. And I think that I was there on Thursday night. And we had 2 Chase lounge chairs, two lawn chairs, Chase lounge chairs. And me and a kid named Eric Clandrud, we went down to Wendy's and we got a bunch of chili and a Frosty. And we had bottles of Mad Dog 2020. And of course, we were all drinking and eating and whooping and hollering. And then, you know, about 10 o'clock at night, everybody turns on their Springsteen songs, and it was just dancing and craziness. And I was so drunk. I passed out in that lawn chair and slept there. No blankets, no nothing, just out there, you know, and whatever, just passed out drunk. And the next morning when the crew came to wake us up and take our spot in line, I think they startled me because I jerked real hard and I fell back and I smacked my head on a concrete bench.
Is that what we're going with here?
So I think I knocked myself out.
Okay.
And then when I woke up, I started puking Mad Dog 2020 just violently.
With chili.
I lost that, yes, and chili. And I lost that day of my life because I did not wake up until the morning of the following day. So
Charles Hullett says, please don't tell us you were naked, Todd. He was
I
not,
was not.
because there was a lot of people around there. And the paper did a newspaper article on the fact that we were wreaking havoc on campus. It was a great time. It was 1984, Todd. I looked it up.
Sure. God, that was fun.
We should get back to football for at least a little bit. We have an important thing. Okay. What else has been the big topics of this week for football?
Well, Tony White, everybody thinks Tony White's going to move on. And Matt Rhule today said that he encourages Tony White, if he gets a head coaching opportunity, that he should take it.
Well, I was going to point out, I don't know if that makes people nervous or not, but I was going to point out when I saw that good leaders are people who take their people under them's needs into account before their own.
Yeah.
And I think if you want to be a leader who attracts good people to you, that's the kind of person you are. You say things like that. You say, somebody should hire my defensive coordinator because he deserves a chance. I hope they don't. I think Tony White is a really good defensive coordinator. Everybody that I have asked, I got into an argument on Twitter with a guy when he said Tony White was overrated and wasn't that good. One of the things I asked him was name another defensive coordinator you'd replace him with. Because this is something that always bugs me. We always do this, and it's something that I just keep bringing up. They shouldn't play that guy. Okay, who should they play in his place? That guard should be taken out of the game and never play again. What other guard are you going to put in there then? Nobody has these answers, and I don't either. I hope that Tony White stays at Nebraska. If they need to pay him more, so be it. They need to give him a different title, so be it. People have different motivations. But I think that he's done a good job of taking guys that he hasn't recruited, being a first-year coach at a new place, and turning them into a pretty serviceable defense.
Yeah. Now, Linda does pop in here a little bit because this is important to say and to clarify. But Rhule, said the right head coaching job, not just any head coaching job. And yeah, absolutely. And there a few weeks back, when people were talking about, doubling Tony White's salary and doing everything we can to keep him around, I don't think Tony White's just going to jump. I mentioned USC, but then when somebody mentioned that he was a UCLA guy, he won't go to USC, and USC is looking at poaching somebody from the Pac-12 anyway. But I would agree. I think Tony White is in a position where he can choose. He can be picky. He will, if the Nebraska defense, has another couple of years where they grow and where they play very, very well, there will be more attractive jobs that he will be considered for. It makes no sense in my mind for a guy like Tony White just to jump to a MAC program for the sake of having a head coaching job. Not at this point in his career. He's a young coach right now as well.
Well, you know what? Minnie comes in and says, well, I missed it. Where'd her comment go? Minnie comes in, hi, Minnie, and says, Bill Bush. You know what? At least Minnie has an answer.
Bill Bush is a good defensive coordinator, I think.
Yeah. And he likes Nebraska. He's liked it so much he stayed around to do a radio show.
I would love to see
maybe
Bill
that's
Bush.
Not a bad option.
Yeah.
Linda Wilkins was correct when she said Rhule said don't go to a school which has higher expectations than support. And I think you can look at that. When I first saw that, I thought, was he bitching about Nebraska? No, because Nebraska, anybody can get all the support they want as a head coach. And we do have really high expectations that can be pretty daunting and exhausting. But you do get all the support you ever wanted to become a winning head football coach. Joel Tilson says, will Lincoln Riley go to the NFL? Did you see Paul Feinbaum rip him apart?
I didn't. I heard about it. Fill me in. What? Give me some details here.
Paul Feinbaum said that Lincoln Riley was a fraud. I wish I should have pulled the tweet up, but he shredded Riley. He basically said that he was a fraud and that him bringing Caleb Williams, a generational player, back just to have this season that had been a complete piece of garbage, has been terrible. I don't know if he said it, but I think he did say he's been able to blame Alex Grinch for all his problems from his defensive coordinator that he fired. He's been able to blame him and commit fraud. It was pretty a nasty shot. And then a lot of people from Oklahoma said, people came in and they said, well, Lincoln Riley went to USC because he's afraid of Oklahoma going to the SEC and he wants no part of that. And then somebody else said, well, he'll be going to the NFL because he doesn't want any part of USC joining the Big Ten either. But will Lincoln Riley go to the NFL? Why? I honestly, I don't have a very high opinion on Lincoln Riley, and I really never have. I just think that his head is too big for his britches. Is that what that line is?
There you go. Yeah, I would agree with you. And
I need to say that different.
Yeah.
I think his head's too big for his britches.
But I could see Lincoln Riley ending up in the NFL as a position coach. Perhaps. We've had a couple of people, and we're sitting at about 52 minutes, John. You want to talk a little bit of volleyball, or we and then circle back, or what do you want to do?
You know what? Here I see where Linda said, let's talk some volleyball.
Charles Hewlett as well.
Charles Hewlett says, now that the volleyball team has the conference title, they be able to close out the year undefeated. The 5 Heart podcast this week is going to be on Wednesday night. And it will feature Greg and Miley and Beth, and they will be talking about volleyball. Now, having said that, I think it will be damned hard to beat Wisconsin. And Wisconsin has lost, I think, 2 of their games because Anna Schmreck was out. And that she came back, and I can't remember who they beat the shit out of in their last game they just played, but she hit 667. So she came back with a vengeance.
I think it's going to be tough to beat Wisconsin on the road. And they also play Minnesota the next day. They don't get any time off between those 2 games. Nebraska's almost at the point where if they don't go undefeated, they're done. I mean, they've got the 2 regular season games left, and then it's tournament time. I think the thing that concerns me the most is if Nebraska were to lose one of those 2 games, or if they were to lose both of those games, what's going to happen to the rankings? More importantly, what's going to happen to the seeds for the tournament? It seems to me, I've never understood the powers that be behind the volleyball seeds. And it just blows my mind. And Nebraska's been at the top all season, but if they take a loss or 2, how far will they drop them down? And would those nut cases drop them out of the top 4 such that they wouldn't be hosting through the tournament? I don't know. That's kind of I'm more nervous about that than I am them getting beat.
Well, Linda Wilkins says Nebraska won the Big Ten and they would be a number 1 seed, Todd. I think Todd doesn't trust the NCAA, and neither do I. No, neither should anybody else. We've been damaged too many times by baseball seedings. Is that right? Am I right? Yeah, that's where the fear comes from. Nebraska strong, go Big Red, says Trevor Alberts needs to double Tony White's salary to $2 million, and Satterfield needs to be fired. Well, Satterfield isn't going to get fired. We already heard that from Matt Rhule. So there's, you can argue that all you want, but there's, it's out of our hands. The decision's already been made. Maybe Satterfield would take a head coaching job somewhere. How about that list?
I think it's a mistake. It would be it's not going to happen. So I guess we really don't need to lament it, but you don't fire a guy who had the team that he had to coach this year.
Look at this. Minnie with the hot take. She says, I think the fact that Purdy played so well on Saturday proves that Satterfield can coach quarterbacks. What do you think of that, Todd? That's a shot. All the people that say we need a quarterback coach.
Maybe, but I would much rather see them bring in a quarterback coach. Somebody asked that question earlier on if we thought that would happen, and I would like to see a quarterback coach, and Satterfield can coach tight ends.
Wow. Brandis McGee says Purdy had the highest quarterback rating this year. At one point, his quarterback rating was 298. That's a high quarterback rating. That's a really high quarterback rating.
He played well. He really, really played well.
So I guess then Marcus Satterfield can coach quarterbacks.
Yeah.
That was a good one, Benny. Thank you. David Matney says, I know I need to let go of the ghost of Scott Frost. Adam Carricker did a video Adam Carricker did a video about how Nebraska can improve immediately. And one of those was to let go of the ghost of Scott Frost. Then I did that short video today I reacted to his video and included his clip of that part. I see a lot of other YouTubers doing reaction videos all over the place, and they score big with them. So I thought I'd try that. I really need to do reactions to Iowa people or Wisconsin people, but I think the idea is that we need to let go of the fact that this has been going on for 9 years or 10 years, but it's still Matt Rhule's first year, and stop carrying our relationship problems forward and blaming Matt Rhule. I mean, I don't think there's any problem with us being bitchy. That's the thing about sports fans is we're bitchy and moany and complaining, and God help us, Nebraska fans, we do this quite well. I mean, even when we won our games, there were ugly wins, so we were bitching about that. So just keep that in mind. David Matney says, are the coaches influenced at all by the rumblings, chatter of the fans? Well, if they are, they shouldn't be coaching.
The coaches, the life of a Division I coach is so all-consuming. They aren't reading social media. They're not reading newspaper. They're not paying attention. They are doing their job. And probably the only one that has that kind of perception, that would know what the fan base is probably talking about would be Matt Rhule, because of the role that he's in as a CEO. And he brings some of those things up in his press conferences and stuff. But the vast majority of those coaches, they're not paying attention at all.
Unless they are, and then again, like I said, they shouldn't be doing.
No,
they should be paying attention. If they are, they shouldn't be in the coaching profession, because they're gonna, no matter what, they're gonna get torn apart. You're always going to be wrong about something.
John says, has Purdy not played before due to injury, or is there a concern about these coaches identifying QB talent? Well, there would be people that would say yes to the second part of that. But the way we understand it, or at least the way I understand it, I better not talk for John. I know that in the Colorado game, the reason that Harburg went in when Sims got hurt was because Purdy was in concussion protocol. And then he's had the groin injury. So it's probably safe to say that he has had injuries throughout the course of the year. Matt Rhule appears to be the kind of a coach that once a decision is made about who's going to be the quarterback, they're going to ride that guy until he can't go anymore.
Okay. Let's see here. Eli Aguilar says, what would John Johnston's pregame speech be to the team before the game? Well, I'll tell you this. One of the things I'd say is, if we die, don't worry about them. Sons of bitches just saved you, no matter how fucked up you are. I don't know. I don't know what I'd say to the team. I'd probably do, you know what I'd do, Todd?
What would you do?
I'd do the, come on, St. Crispin's Day speech.
You
know this speech. You know this speech from Henry V. You know this speech. You know this. Before the Battle of Agincourt, the British are about to take on the French. They're horribly outnumbered. They're facing incredible odds, and the speech written by Shakespeare starts with one of the king's cousins wishing they had more men. Kenneth, I'll link to this in the show notes. I'm not going to do it right now. I'll just cry. It's beautiful. I mean, have you not ever seen Henry V with Kenneth?
No, I'm not a Shakespeare guy. We had that conversation a year ago.
Oh my God. I do that speech. Not one man more. Huh? Okay.
No. Yeah.
Okay.
No. Eli says Todd was a lineman back in the day. Nope, John was the lineman. I was a tight end and a linebacker and a kicker.
Nobody wanted me near a ball. Oh, I had one more here. Oh, here it is. Joel Telshow says, will the young players eradicate the cancerous mentality that plagues us? What do you think of that, Todd?
I hope so.
I think the thing is, this goes back to, during the pandemic, I talked to Yoshi, Jamarcus Hardrick. He plays in the CFL, former Nebraska player. I talked to him about some of that stuff. What do you need for players on your team? And one of the things he pointed out to me was you need the older veteran players around because they're the ones that can pull the younger players out of their funk when it happens in the middle of the game. Like, for example, during the Frost years, I commonly said that a problem with the football team was if bad things happened, everybody mentally fell apart. And you have to have players that can look at the other players and say, it's going to be okay. We just have to do our jobs and we have to do what we're told and we have to keep competing. And you have to have those players. They have to exist on the field for your team. And this is probably some of the problems that we face now is, this is a very, very young football team. And you look at the receiving corps, most of the older guys have been injured. Billy Camp's still there, and maybe he is that stabilizing influence. But this, leadership normally doesn't come in very young people. It comes as you get older and crestier and grayer. Hopefully not as a football player, but, you get the point. So will the young players eradicate the cancerous mentality that plagues us? You know what? They will if they stick around to become successful older players. I guess that's what I'd say about that. And that's key to being successful and continuing to be successful over a long run. How's that answer, Todd?
I thought that was a great answer.
I'm running out of breath.
What do you think is going to happen on Friday, John?
Oh my God. What do I think is going to happen? Joel Tilson says 4-3 Nebraska by 2 safeties. Oh, what do I think is going to happen?
Iowa opened with a safety against Illinois.
You know what? I think if Chubba Purdy can play that same game, be smart with the ball, and we don't turn the ball over, we have a fighting chance. I honestly think it's going to be really tough for us to beat Iowa. I think it's going to be tough for us to beat Iowa just because of the difference I just described. Iowa has had the same coaching staff for fucking decades, right? Phil Parker, I don't know how long he's been there, but he's been there for a long time. And you have veteran players. Cooper DeJean being out hurts them a lot because he is not on the field, and he is an incredible player. But, can Nebraska pull that together? I think that our offense can score more than them. I think our offense can take care of Deacon Hill. We're not going to have to worry about a mobile 280-pound quarterback. Being able to scramble around, and maybe we can punch some balls out. Our biggest problem, I think, against Iowa is going to be, is Brian Buschini going to have a good game? If we get to the 40-yard line, can Brian Buschini get some punts that get Iowa down to where we can, I don't know, at least manage them in a field, ball control game. And maybe, I think somebody said this earlier in the comments section, maybe this will be a Dale Klein against Missouri day. You remember that?
Yeah.
7 field goals.
Yeah.
and Nebraska won. I can't remember what the final score was, but obviously with 7 field goals, Nebraska had 21 points. And I can tell you after that game, there were a lot of people that said, this wasn't a real win. We didn't score any touchdowns, because it's just to show you, we've always bitched about Nebraska football, no matter how good it was. So, let's go Nebraska 12, Iowa 10. 4 field goals to their maybe a touchdown, a 2-point PAT, and a safety. I don't know. I think it's going to be tough. I just think it's going to be a tough game. We don't have a Trey Palmer. That would be nice. We do have a Jaden Dawson, a Malachi Coleman. Why do I fuck this guy's name up all the time? It's a simple name. Anyway, you know what? 12-10, something like 20-10. I think Nebraska can do it, but I think it's going to be a tall order. I guess we're going to see what kind of guts this team has when they face off against Iowa. What do you think, Todd?
Yeah, I think it will be a real gut check. I expect our team to show up. I do. I think that they will show up. I think they're going to play hard. I don't expect to see much scoring at all. If Nebraska could score 10 points, I think they can win. We'll see. We'll see.
Okay. Moonbot has 26-13 Iowa. Linda Wilkins has 2-1 Nebraska, a 1-point safety and a 2-point safety. David Mantney is 13-3 Iowa. MK says BB. Brian Bashini needs to have a personal best day punting. That's true. Phil Spears says another close, painful loss unless someone kidnaps Satterfield. Who do you want for an offensive coordinator? Think about that. But because it's a long off season that's coming up. John, would it be healthy for people that are stuck on Frost to try and consider just how remarkable that stint of failure was? I would love to see a video on it. I keep trying to go on from it, and there's a lot of other stuff that I would love to cover in videos rather than that. And I don't know. Maybe it's too soon. Justin Rogie, Nebraska 9, Iowa 3. Yeah, I like that score. Cilantro says if Nebraska wins, Todd needs to chug an entire can of beer on the live stream in 20 seconds.
Oh, piece of cake.
I could never chug beer. I never did. Ted Hilker, 7-3 Nebraska. That'll be, you know what? That'll be a game that the nation wants to watch. Brangus McGee, 23-10, Nebraska over Iowa. Weather at Lincoln Friday. Do you know what it is?
They took the snow out of the forecast. It's supposed to be windy.
Okay, Nebraska Strong says 9-0 Huskers win and embarrass Iowa on national TV. Go Big Red. That would be beautiful. And then Anonymous, I think we're going to stop there because I really am running out of breath. Anonymous says 2-0 in 6 overtime on an interception return. God, that'd be the game America needs to see, wouldn't it? All right. Oh my God, there's more. Colby Dale says 16-9 Nebraska. Jav says 5 turnovers for Nebraska. That guy's
the turnover part has me a little bit worried too. I know that
it does.
They played well, but Iowa feasts on that.
Husker JPEG says 37 degrees cloudy. Husker Bob says send Brian Ferentz out correctly, 19-0 Huskers. Oh my God. Okay, you guys, I need to go. I need to do a better practicing the breathing. Maybe I need a little red light. Okay. Have you got anything else, Todd?
I got nothing, man.
Okay. Tomorrow night, 7:30 p.m., Scott Docterman covers Iowa for The Athletic. I'll be talking to him for a half hour. And then Wednesday night at 9, Greg will be talking to Miley and Beth about volleyball. So get your asses over to those shows. There you go. Good night, Todd.
Hey, good night, John, and happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Happy Thanksgiving.